So if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you've likely seen my struggle with how the heck do you set up and structure a GoLang backend server, whatever. I have gone through several very different iterations of this. I've tried structuring it like an Express app. I've tried doing things the sort of Go way, which I do like actually. It's grown on me a lot. I've tried a bunch of different things, done a million different projects, and I've never really found a way that I thought was decent. And this way that I'm going to show you today is a new way, and I think it's very good and it has a lot of promise. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I think it's the perfect silver bullet solution, because I think one of the biggest things I've learned about Go and Go backends and all these different things is that there is no silver bullet. There's no perfect way to do everything. That's why when you create like a template or something for Go, it doesn't make as much sense. There's no exact framework and structure to do things. It's very unopinionated, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's also a terrifying thing. It makes it very difficult for newbies to get into it, and it makes starting out projects a little more tricky. So today I want to talk about dependency management in the GoLang package FX. This is a way to help you structure your apps and a way to help you set things up in a way that makes a little bit more sense. And even though there's a weird little learning curve here, once you get the hang of it, it's very easy. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to go through, I'm going to show you how I structured the Go SvelteToDo's backend API thing that I talked about in these previous two videos. I'm going to be expanding on it even more in the next video. We're going to be adding CRUD roots to this, but for now, we're just going to be talking about the layout and the structure, how I'm providing everything. All the source code is linked in the description below, and I highly recommend that either before or after you watch this video, go through the FX documentation. This will give you a very good understanding of how it works, and it will give you a deeper look into it than I'm going to give you here. I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible to not drone on so that you can get the key information and get out. So without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start with, as we usually do, a high-level overview of how this is actually going to work. So FX is a dependency management system. So if you're not familiar with the concept of dependency injection, you're likely a TS dev. I am not a C# guy or anything like that, but I think that this is a much more common pattern I did Spring Boot dev for like a week. I played with it, and dependency injection was a big thing there. It's very common in a lot of these other frameworks, and it's something that FX will help us do here. So the core concept that we're going to be talking about, and I'm not going to get too much further into it than this. Again, the docs are there. I highly recommend you read those to get more into it. But the whole thing that we're going to be talking about here is going to be providing dependencies to FX so that FX can then provide those to other different things that we provide to it. So I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let me try and explain this with an example. So this is a high-level overview of the core components of this backend. So I have my user handler, user storage, all this stuff. And the big thing we need is this Fiber server. Now this Fiber server has dependencies. There are things that it requires to run, like a database connection, like the user handlers, like all these different things that are required for me to spin up my Fiber server, to spin up my roots, and to send it down to the end user. So the first thing we're going to need to provide to our Fiber server is we need to get access to our user handlers. These are going to be the things that handle the endpoint calls that we make from our Fiber backend. So we're going to go ahead here, and we're going to provide this user handler to FX. So I'm going to call FX. I'm going to provide this to FX. I'll show you the syntax soon, but we're going to be giving this user handler over to FX. Okay, great. So now FX has registered into it this pointer to a user handler within my backend. So now FX can then go ahead and provide this to the Fiber server. So far, so good. However, this user handler has some dependencies of its own. If we're going to handle our users, we need to also be able to handle our user storage. We need to be able to manage those users in our database, and we also need to be able to manage our sessions. Because remember, in the last video, we implemented authentication. Authentication requires JWTs. Well, in this case, we didn't use JWTs. It requires sessions and that kind of thing, and it requires Redis. So those two need to be provided to the user handler. So FX can handle that for us. And once you see the code, it's like magic. It's crazy how this actually works. No clue how they implemented this, but this session handler gets provided to FX. User handler gets provided to FX. Everything's great. Then FX is smart and it can provide that back to the user handler. So it goes right here. We provide those back up to our user handler. So these go into FX, go up to our user handler. But once again, we've run into this problem. Our user storage needs a Postgres connection, and our session manager needs a Redis connection because we need to store our session in Redis. So what are we going to do? Provide it to FX, and then it's going to be provided back out to our session manager. And then all of this flows back to the Fiber server. So looking at this diagram alone, it probably makes very little sense, and it just seems like magic, but really it is. So let's look at the code and see how clean and easy this really is. So this is the code. This is my main function, and all I'm doing right here is I'm doing exactly what we said before. I'm providing and then I'm consuming. So up here we have this new Fiber server method. This is the beating heart of the app. This is that bottom box that creates and runs our Fiber server. So what I'm passing into this method is I'm passing in this LC, which is an FX lifecycle. We'll talk about that in a moment. But the big thing is, remember that my Fiber server back here in our diagram, it depended on the user handler. We needed to pass that dependency into our Fiber server. We needed to inject the dependency. So up here, I have my user handlers, and that's being passed in here. And then down in here within the app itself, I can go ahead and initialize it, and then I use these user handlers to set up my routes. All makes sense, very good. We set up our handlers elsewhere, and then within our Fiber server method, we can hook up do our actual routing and stuff. So I think this is a pretty nice way to do it. We handle all that in here. The lifecycle section of FX is super useful because it allows us to run things when our app starts and when our app stops. So right down here, I am doing lc.append, and I'm passing in this FX hook. And this FX hook is going to have an onStart function and an onStop function. The onStart function is simply going to start up our app. Now I'm calling it as a go routine because I don't want to block the main thread. FX is smart, and it'll just like run forever and just let things go. So I can just start this up here. So if I had something else I wanted to set up, like say maybe a queue service or a logging service or whatever I wanted to do, I could set that up on the same app in the same way by just providing it an onStart function that includes a go routine. So this allows me to handle things concurrently. It's a really clean way to do it. And then this onStop is going to return the cleanup for this, and all that cleanup is going to be is to shut down the app itself. And then all this onStop function is going to do is it's going to take in another method, and it's going to go ahead and return the app.shutdown, which returns an error, which is all that this takes in. So we can shut down the app gracefully, and this will make sure that we never have any weird crashes and everything is handled properly. So this is all that's in our new Fiber server method. And then down here, remember, it's all about providing. So this create Postgres connection is being provided. And all it does is it takes in an LC of an FX lifecycle. And what's really nice is, remember when I talked about the lifecycle thing earlier, we can provide that to any method that we're putting into provide or into invoke. And we can use that to handle things like closing our database. So what I'm doing in here is I'm going ahead and I'm initializing my Postgres connection, and then I'm calling an onStart function to, I'll check if there's an error, and if there is an error, I'll throw it. I put this note in here because I'm not entirely certain if this is perfect. Again, I've been using FX for a bit here, but I'm not an expert by any means. So someone smarter than me is probably watching this, and if this is dumb, they'll tell you in the comments. So go look for that. Then the big thing that is really important here is the onStop function is connection.close. So what we're going to do is anytime we stop our FX server, we will close our Postgres connection. So going back to our main.go, we're providing our pgx.pool, and then we're going to provide our user storage. And this user storage is going to take in this pgx.pool. It doesn't matter what order we put these things in. All that matters is that these are being provided into FX, and then any of these other different functions can consume those dependencies and use them as they see fit, which is super, super, super useful. I know this is kind of hard to explain, and I highly recommend that you play around with this yourself. Try making a little example app with this. Try some weird edge cases that you come up with, and you'll learn a lot. So we're just passing all these in, and then finally we can call this invoke method. The provide method is we'll just send all these things to FX and then let them go. So finally, down here, we're going to invoke the new Fiber server, which means that we're actually going to run this function and not just provide its dependencies, which is the dependencies come from the return values up here, but we're going to actually invoke this method. And when we invoke that method, we are going to call our app.listen. If we go down here, you can clearly see I have provided up here. So remember, we were providing things. We've provided the Postgres connection pool. We provided the user storage, provided the handlers, provided the client, provided the session manager. All of these are now available to be used by any of our different functions, and they rely on each other, but we can inject them accordingly. If I wanted to swap out my user storage, I could just put a different user storage in. As long as it implements the same interface, it would work. So we implement all that stuff in, then it provides, the lifecycle stuff here. And then the key is it will call the onStart hooks. And when it calls these onStart hooks, you can see the output printed out right here. You can see this hook onStart, starting Fiber server on port 8080. and our Fiber server is running right here. So this is a clean way to structure things, because what it does is it lets you handle things, it lets you group them really nicely, and it lets you handle things via dependencies. What I can do here is within my user storage method, so we go into my private directory, we go into my storage, and we go into users. My user storage can now have a connection that's associated with it, which is a dependency, and that dependency can be injected from the main method. So I can swap out the implementation for that as much as I see fit. It makes it really modular and it makes it really clean. This gives us a very easy way to set up and structure things, and the way you want to organize this is ultimately up to you. There's debate on how to do it. Some people like grouping things by concerns. So within your private directory, you would have a users directory, and within your users directory, you would have handlers, and then storage, and then whatever else you had. And then you would also have a to-dos directory, and so on and so forth. I personally kind of like having things just globally under a handlers and a storage. I know a lot of you aren't going to like that, but that's just my personal preference. Again, neither one is inherently right or wrong. It's kind of up to personal preference. Go is not particularly opinionated on this stuff, and I think that's one of the things that's beautiful about it. So give this a shot. I highly recommend you download the source code for this and play with it on your own. I'm not going to go line by line through the entire thing like I often do, because I think that's just going to get repetitive and boring, and there's no real reason for that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, do all that stuff. I'm going to have more coming up for this series later this week. We're going to be implementing the CRUD methods for the to-dos, and then we're going to be looking at hosting and a bunch of other stuff. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.